Hi everybody, back again. This time I want to talk about the strategies that we can use to help people get better connected in their community. This is that we've talked before about the need for real connection for people. The people should not be feeling like they're just never going to have any connection with people. It's just not okay for this to be happening the way it does. And we've talked about the disability tourism, people wandering around the world without any connection at all. And actually, the NDIA and the funds it's providing, if you want to talk about fraud, as far as I'm concerned, this is bigger than almost anything else we could imagine. Because actually what we're doing is having people going out and about in the world, but actually never really meeting anybody or creating any connections to people outside family and people who are paid to be with them. Now, I want to just for a moment talk about that relationship with people who are paid to be with them, because some of those relationships are very important. And I'm not in any way trying to kind of diminish those relationships. And actually, for a lot of people, there won't be a connection unless the relationship between the person who's working with him or her and that person, unless that's going well, there won't be the things that we need to see happening. So this is not to diminish that relationship, but that relationship should be seen as the stepping stone to the relationships that really, really need to be there long term for the individual. If we can work about that. So I think that often workers don't have that on their radar, and sometimes families don't either, for whatever reason. And I think that that's come about because when the NDIA started, we took an old model of service and we plonked it into the NDIA and called it something else. But it was no different to the old model, while we were trying to say we wanted new things to happen. Well, these new things aren't going to happen unless people have skills and abilities, unless they've been given some direction by services and families about what's expected for them to do. And this is a really important point. Getting cranky with the workers when in fact we haven't actually given any direction is not good enough. We all need to be involved in this, as tired as we might be, or as strung out about all the things that we already have to do. Because I think what I see is that so many people with disability are orbiting around the world without docking. Don't know a single person outside their family, know some people in a surfacey kind of way, but not really in the way that we would think would be the right and proper way to do things. So if we agree that connection is everything, and we know that the connection is how we're going to keep people safe, a lot safer than any auditing process or registration of services will ever do, whatever the NDIA says, okay? So those things will keep services kind of running, ticking over, but they will not actually keep people safe because there's nothing in that auditing process that talks about what satisfaction would really mean for the person with disability or their family. And I don't think there's any criteria there about the kinds of things that we would measure. So let's get over that one pretty quickly and work out that we're going to need something very different to that. The fact that some people are hidden away and not known to anyone is the most terrible thing that we can do for people. It creates a vulnerability that I don't think any of us could ever imagine. I want to tell a little story because I'm very proud about this, but also, the things I've been talking about connecting up in community, going back to the same places, this is a very good story about that. My son has been going to the same bank for a very long time, and he has a relationship with every teller there, thank you to the work of his workers who have been very vigilant in making sure that Val's front and centre in those transactions. Recently, over a year ago, one of the tellers pulled Dean aside to say that she was very concerned about the way someone that was working with Val was talking with him and the way he was actually just interacting. This was powerful news to us. We were already a bit concerned. And that person is no longer with us, of course. But what even more wonderful was last week she pulled Dean aside to tell him that one of the newer people that we have working with Val is amazing. And the way he interacts with Val and how he opts to make sure that Val's actually at the front and centre of everything is really incredible. People will keep people safe. Being out in the community and present in community and known to people in community is how we will keep people safe. That's not going to happen if as parents you're going out doing people's banking for them. It's not going to happen if they go out with the worker and the worker is at the front of everything and the person sits at the back while their worker actually does the work for them. The person has to be part of everything. Nothing about us without us. It's a fabulous catch cry that's been around for quite a long time now. And remember the 5 frameworks for accomplishment. We talked about that in another video. Presence, participation, real valued roles, choice and control, and contribution as a template for the way that we might support people. And supporting people in this brilliant framework is actually a guarantee of connection, because it's almost impossible for it to be anything else, while that's happening. So but the quality of the connection will still need to be real work done on how the person supporting the individual, depending on how much support they need, how that support is given will make a huge difference to the degree of connection, the degree that the person will be actually recognised and known in their own community. So I mentioned in another video the power of being present in community, and I don't know if I use this example, but you see what's happened to elderly people, don't you? Where people go into nursing homes and every single service comes in. The hairdresser, the GP, the pharmacy, the OT, the laundry is done in-house. Everything is done in-house, which means that no one ever sees that person. And you might think, well, if the person's got dementia, it probably, that might be for the better. I'm not so sure. I actually think having things to do, not being bored and sitting around all day with nothing to do, would be a very important thing. And by the way, just while we're on nursing homes, the one that my dear friend was in, I would go and buy clothes for her and get the place to write her name on those clothes. And 2 weeks later, they wouldn't be there because they went to the central laundry, and God knows where they went next. Sometimes they came back, sometimes they didn't. It was an absolute mystery. But it used to occur to me, if you're thinking about real valued roles, one of the other 5 frameworks, wouldn't it be amazing if they had a Ringer washing machine or a twin tub washing machine, and each person was supported to do their washing every week and to take it out to a rotary clothesline and hang it out, bring it in and sort it themselves. Something really meaningful to do that would be part of a life, a past life that people might be quite really enjoy doing. So I think there's a lot to learn from all those things for sure. Sorry. The light is dimming. In another video I talked about the sweet spot, which is a concept that Neil Barringham introduced me to do. A guy from Brisbane who worked at a place called A Place to Belong that really supported homeless people to be part of their community. He talked at length about the sweet spot, which I think is a really powerful idea, the idea that you go back to the same place for everything that you're doing, so that the person gets known by people there, and actually people get a lot more relaxed about different kinds of behaviours or quirky things that people might do. So, strategy 1 here would be becoming a regular at a coffee shop where you go to do your shopping, at the chemist and at the doctor. So having people you go back to regularly means that everybody builds capacity, not just the person, but everybody there. And I think it just makes a huge difference to how that person is seen in the community. So if I was to take, for one example, going for coffee on a Sunday morning to the same place every Sunday, our experience is that we've changed that from place to place, because this place we've been to for a long time. And one of the things we noticed was, in certain parts of that particular coffee shop, my son's ability to manage the noise is so much better, and so we used to try not to be at that particular part of the coffee shop. So people there notice when we don't come in. Sometimes they say, you weren't here last Sunday, and we go, yeah, we were, and then we realise, no, we weren't. They notice more than we do. They value my son as a valued customer in their place, as they should, because he brings more people in as well. And the difference in Val developmentally has been that when we first started doing this, he would slug his coffee and want to go 10 minutes after he got there. Whereas now that we can sit there for like 2 hours and he can be there and very happy to be part of that. And I think, the thing, when I think about the chemist, we go to the same chemist all the time. The pharmacist has worked out different ways to get, Val is on CBD oil, has worked out different ways to get that cheaper. Sarah, who's at that chemist, knew Val and I when Val was little, at another chemist that she worked. always talks to Val when he's in there, always tells me that she's seen him. Another person is looking on to see how things are going for him. The GP has recently thought of a different way that we might be able to reduce the cost because they're quite high for the CBD oil. And the neurologist at the hospital has also developed a different way. So we started off, it was extraordinarily expensive. And over time, all these people have been organising themselves, not us, to see if they can help us get that cheaper. And working on the cost of reducing what is a very expensive but amazing component to Val's well-being. Going to the same place at the same time also means that you can actually create a bit of a framework around how you're trying to connect people up. So when we go to that coffee shop, every Sunday, regardless of whether people come or not, Dean sends a text out to extended family to tell him that we're there. Sometimes people don't come for weeks or months. No one has a value judgment on that. You're invited, you turn up if you can, you don't if you don't. But lately, it's been more times people are turning up than not. So we're all there, they know where we are. My sister will go to do her shopping and turn up afterwards or before to stop and have a coffee or a quick chat, which Val adores. And his sister and her family often come. And that is absolutely a high point for him. So this is a strategy that we've been creating for a long time to try and make sure that people have a way to easily connect with Val without having to make an appointment, without having being judged if they're not able to do it. Now, in case you think that everything is just peachy and perfect with us, it's not. So now that we've got this happening, we've got this little kind of flow of people coming and going, I look on and see that Val has no way of talking to anyone. It requires someone to think about something they're going to say to him because he doesn't initiate the conversation. And so this is our next big challenge, trying to work out how to get Val even more into his own life by making sure that he's got topics and ways to raise those topics and ways for people to actually start a conversation with him about those topics, when we're all together. So it isn't all perfect. I think the next strategy too is to never underestimate the power of a positive image. So the more that the person looks like other people, I don't mean that they have to look extraordinary. We're not talking about Dior. Not many people in Townsville are wearing Dior, so it's okay. But we're talking about thinking about what are other people wearing, what are other people accessorizing with, so that there's an opportunity for people to identify that Val is more like them. And this is a very good strategy. I find it for myself, like I've got a certain handbag, no matter when I wear that handbag, some woman comes up and goes, I love that handbag. Or this dress I bought recently, everybody comes up, 5 people over the last 2 days to say, I love that pattern, where'd you get it? Our clothing and our image is one of the ways that we can pull people towards us. And I don't think that people with disability are any different. So a great necklace, a very groovy pair of the shape of the sunglasses, a fishing, we're in Townsville, North Queensland, so tropical place, a good fishing shirt, sun repellent fishing shirt. People notice those, and a cowboy strip, which is in our rugby league team, National Rugby League team. These are all things that create an idea of people being more in the tribe than out. Funny thing happened a few years ago. I noticed that everyone around town was wearing Cowboys paraphernalia. They had things on their cars, they had things hanging off their cars. I was like, what's going on here? Because I'm the only person in my family that isn't interested in football. And I realised that they were winning. So you want to be more of the tribe when people are winning. It's very important to get on that boat as quickly as you can. Third strategy, I think, is as a worker or a family, is to get out of the way when there's some kind of transaction happening between the person with disability and a person in the community. And that could be when people are ordering their drinks, or it could be, paying for food or getting groceries. So as much as that person can do for themselves, it should be laid open for that to happen. And I often remember somebody I know very well has a little patter at the grocery thing because she uses her card, and she uses her card and she'll say, have you been busy? As a way to start a conversation with the person behind the counter. And so learning those little conversational tricks, if a person can speak, can be a really lovely way to start a connection in ways I think that are really very important for the person. So, getting out of the way. And so if the person behind the counter doesn't understand what the person said, It is not your role to sit there acting like, well, you should know, mate. I understand. Your role is to do something to kind of reconnect the communication up again. And it probably is going to be a bit like looking at, the person you support and going, did you say you wanted blah, 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 Val, or whoever? And they go, yeah, and then the transaction is back between the two people. This is a very good strategy because it empowers people to know that if you turn up there with the individual, that there's going to be someone who's going to sort things out if that person can't do it. Remember, the biggest victims of segregation in our world and congregation have been the community who haven't learned how to be with people with disability. It's a very sad thing. It's funny, I went to get my hair done yesterday and my hairdresser has got an incredible understanding of where people with disabilities should be around school integration and everything. And I said to her, how did you get to have these values about what's important? She started telling me about a boy there, a man, who was part of their family's circle. And she said he was a really big guy, but he was the most gentle giant. And I knew immediately who she meant, because this man was a very powerful influence on me, one of my greatest teachers, a person with enormous autism, severe communication impairment, but we learn a lot of things together, both in my role and as a friend. And that was just an amazing thing that she said that and I knew who she meant. And she was saying that he had been a person who really taught her a lot about not just taking what you think, what you see. What you see is not necessarily what you get. So when people get the chance to be part of someone's circle, the learning and the building of capacity and community it's exponential, and it can be a very powerful thing. The fourth strategy, I think, is using the assets of the person. So if a person's got a place to live, hopefully they have, if they're living out at home, one of the things I think is very powerful is to create a really nice outdoor area, particularly if you live in, a tropical area or a place that's pretty warm. If you live in a cooler one, maybe you're going to have a fire pit and other things, but a barbecue, up here, shade, music, nice places for people to sit, and of course when you invite people over, good food and company has been one of the strategies that we've used to bring family and other people together around my son quite a few times. And we're building some flower beds now, cutting flower beds, and some other things there that I think will be very much part of making that area as attractive as possible. Many moons ago, his cousin, Gabe, and her partner came over and painted a block wall that we've got there, painted it white, because we've had a plan to have outdoor movies out over there quite a lot. And I was going to do something else with that wall, and Dean, Val's worker, said, are we going to do those movies? And I said, well, we haven't done them, so I don't know. And he went, well, I think we should do it pretty soon. So the idea that you could bring people together, because Val's got a lovely asset there that people can come and enjoy and see the things he's made at Skills NQ and all the things that have been going on in his life. It's just a powerful thing. So I really feel that we often could use the assets more. If a person's driving around the car all day, you could go next door to the woman who's just had the baby to say, we're at the shops every day. Here's my, Val's text number, his mobile number. If you text us, we could get milk or anything you needed. Just let us know, and we'll work it. You click and collect anything that we could do. Because here we are driving around. How about we're doing something meaningful with our driving rather than just going from point A to point B? And Rick Thompson used to say around using our assets that I think I might have told you this story in another video, that Rick used to say, when we're building community around people, if you grow tomatoes, you're always going to have more tomatoes than you need, which means that you can pass them over the fence or to friends or family. And I think that's also true of basil, parsley, up here coriander in winter, and flowers. So all these things can be part of how we create a lovely space for people. Yeah, I was going to be a real smart aleck then and not talking about a sensory garden, maybe just making a garden that's beautiful, and there would be a lovely sensory impact in that rather than doing something special and weird. You know what I mean. I think the other thing, strategy 5 for me, is that people have got a lot of time and got a lot of people at their disposal, the people who come to work. So if a person's, say, interested in football, he could join the committee, he or she could join the committee of the football club or any club, take up the role of secretary. Even if they can't read, write or type, their worker can do the bits that they can do, and the person can be circulating the minutes, helping work out how to make a flyer for things, reminding people of what they said they do at the meeting. There's a whole lot of roles in clubs and committees where people are volunteers, where a person who's got time, energy and expertise at their fingertips could be a really helpful person. So I really think that's actually something we should be really exploiting a lot more. That stuff about, there's another one really about assets, isn't it? Your house, your car, and the people who come to work with you. By the way, that does require the people who come to work with you to be confident. Have I said that before? Oh, I think I might have told you that already. It's important. And strategy 6, I think, is thinking about your neighbourhood and thinking about how you could create some connection in the neighbourhood. So in 2019, and in other places I know there's been natural disasters, we had a major flood issue here. And there were some suburbs of Townsville that were absolutely inundated and decimated, other parts that weren't. What happened in our community was really amazing. Kids baked cakes and their mothers drove them around. I was over there with where my daughter was living. They had this issue in their street. The kids young people were coming around with these cakes and lollies, handing them out to people. A local doctor's surgery booked up a mobile coffee van and sent that round the neighbourhood saying anyone who wants a coffee, whatever, you can have it on us. Young people came around and helped break up the sofa that was really waterlogged. When there's been a flood, how difficult that is. Came around and did that and helped people out. There were people driving around all the time helping each other, coming over to check to see what they could do. It was an extraordinary experience. And many of my colleagues and I have tried to work out before, after a big event, how do we actually keep that level of energy and connection in community? And I think it's very difficult because people go back to their busy lives. But one of the things that does occur to me is, we could organise like street parties around events like Christmas, Easter, Halloween, I don't know, someone's birthday. And actually in Townsville, and maybe in others, the council here at one point used to pay people a certain amount of money to organise those things around Christmas. It's quite a lovely idea. And so one of the things that might be able to be possible for this person who's not got too much to do every day, to actually, with their support of their workers, design a flyer, land on a date, and invite people to something in their street, at a certain point. Wouldn't that be amazing? And then people can learn how to be with the person you're supporting without having to do anything except be in their presence. And I always remember, like many years ago when I couldn't really get out of my house, on Sunday nights I'd often have a roast and red wine and ask people to come over. And one of the people who often used to come was a friend of mine who had had a physical disability and who used a board independently to communicate. And so lots of people would be at this dinner, and lots of people would be pretty legless by the end of it, including the person with the physical disability. But one night, one of the young people who was there asked this man a question that he could not answer with yes or no. And it was like there was this stillness in the room. And then he said, well, I suppose I better go over and learn how to do this now. Went over and sat next to this guy and started to talk with him on the board. I might have shared that story with you once before. The other funny story about that was another friend was there, and I caught him actually typing out on the board to communicate with this man, who did not need that because he could understand everything he said. But this is people learning how to be with other people and learning how to manage the things that they find very overwhelming and worrying, isn't it? So, yes, I think that thing is a really lovely kind of thing to do. And I think more than anything else, as a worker in particular, but families and service providers as well, the question has to be, what are we going to do to kind of create these better connections for people? How are we going to create this opportunity that keeps people better safeguarded? How are we going to create these opportunities to help people feel like they're part of the world? And how can we help this person be a citizen where they're contributing as well as getting? And I think when we start to ask these questions, we start to find some answers that are always there, but unless you ask those questions, you'll never know. Remember that thing on, I don't know, one of those guys who was on for the Northern Territory? You'll never, never know if you never, never go. Well, in this case, if we don't start thinking about this stuff and activating the people around the individual, really helping people learn how to do this more effectively, people are always going to be disconnected and not part of their communities, which I think is one of the most tragic things in the world for the person, but even more tragic for the community, who wouldn't get to know my friend, that guy that the hairdresser was talking about, or wouldn't get to know my son or daughter, or your son or daughter, or the person that you're supporting. So this is really, really important. Now we're at the end. I am making bigger videos because people keep telling me they like them. Please tell me if you don't. I'd love it if you'd subscribe. I'd love it if you'd like the video. I'd love it if you would make a comment. I have to get better at asking you questions so that you can answer me. I said in the last video, this is one of the ways to make sure that we are building this sense of community amongst us, a place where people truly are supporting each other and learning from each other. And as the community builds, there'll be more opportunities for that to happen in different ways, just to be sitting here talking to you. And I'm very keen to get some people to come and tell us their stories. So if you've got things that you'd like to learn about or understand, or someone you think would be really interesting to invite to come and do this, write it in the comments and let me know, and I will do my best to do anything I can to get a better connection going. So it's today, it's Sunday afternoon. I hope you had a lovely weekend, or whatever day it is that you're looking at this. Thank you for watching. See ya.